Perhaps because you have a period of time within which you can detain anybody. And sometimes, if you let these people go free, they can tamper with evidence. So it behoves on the prosecution sometimes to file these cases. And then ask that the person be kept in custody pending the completion of evidence. And in Nigeria, where we don't have good records, and where we don't have good tracing of even phones, it could be very difficult for the prosecution itself. And most times, you call people to testify. They agree today to be a prosecution witness. You wake them the next morning, they have relations who are speaking to them. This is your townsman. You can't give evidence against him. When I was hungry, this man gave me this, and all of that. Totality of this is a big problem. Nigeria has a long way to go. It is corruption itself, if I must say. We're talking about corruption generally. It's a very complex thing. It's very, very complex.
You are listing the challenges that prosecution goes through.
Yes.
So would you say then that we have the capacity to prosecute people who we suspect might be corrupt?
Yes, we do have the capacity, but much more has to be done, if I must say. Take, for instance, funding. You have to start right from the policeman there. You have to trace assets. You have to track assets. You have to follow these assets. And you have to track and make an analysis of the lifestyle of somebody. You have also to find his nexus, his connections to other people who could hide funds for him. It takes a lot, and it costs a lot of money. The question you ask, do we have the funding enough in Nigeria to do all of that?
I didn't ask about funds. I asked about capacity.
Well, when you're talking about capacity, you're talking about funding.
Not just funding, the knowledge, the skill, the strategy.
Well, if you talk about the strategies, the capabilities of people who do all of this, we know quite well that our police are very good. They can do investigations. They've done it in the days. Other agencies can as well do very well. Our lawyers are well trained.
If that's the case, why are we losing cases? I mean,
well, it is, I just sit and ponder over when Nigerians say we are losing cases. It is quite relative. You could say we are really losing cases. The defense could say we are also winning cases. And in other instances, it could flip and turn the other way around. We must not see it that every case that goes to court, we must win. No, it doesn't follow. Let us not look at it that way.
How should we look at it?
How we should look at it. Now we should look at it in the sense that if you know the trauma anyone goes through being prosecuted.
You know what? We will answer that question. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. But we'll answer that question in terms of how we should view cases that could go to court, whether or not, you know, the prosecution must win. And we'll talk about it a bit more in just a moment. Just stay with us.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Eric Ifere is still with us on Sunrise Daily. Just before we went on that break, you were telling us how to view cases that go to court.
Yes.
You say we should not always expect that we would win.
Well, get me right. The prosecution goes to court, and under the assumption or presumption that he's got a good case and is going to have a good day in court. Now, there is a weighing exercise in cases. The prosecution puts its evidence on board, and that's why you find the judicial symbol has a weighing balance. The prosecution puts his case, puts his facts, puts his proof of evidence, and the defense does the same. At the end of the day, the judge, who is supposed to be blinded, will measure where it is heavier, and then strike, giving you judgment in favor of whoever it is. What I was saying here is that there's a lot of investigation involved in cases. There's a lot of proof of evidence involved in cases. There's a lot of facts to be put before. And reliance on documents, evidences, testimonies of witnesses, and all of that. Now, we found cases, like you did say, where no case submissions were made. And Nigerians have been screaming about that. What must have happened? Invariably, what the judge had just said is, with what I have before me, I don't think the defense, there's enough for the defense to defend itself. Because in prosecution of criminal cases,
there's enough for the defense to defend itself, or
to
there's
put up
enough,
any defense,
or there is enough for the
you to answer.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is falling back on the prosecution.
Yes. Now you're talking about the prosecution, and we now put the blame on the doorsteps of the prosecution.
Isn't that where it belongs?
No.
Where does it belong?
It's a totality of a lot of issues, and I will tell you that. First issue is amount of evidence put before the judge. Secondly, oftentimes is the third party of the judge. Because there are some judges, if you raise a prima facie case, the slightest of doubt, he will call the defense. Yes.
Are you blaming the judges then?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Are you exonerating the prosecution then?
I'm not exonerating anybody. I told you it's a totality of the judicial system, a court system, how it does operate.
Okay.
Yes. And I don't want us to be blinded by the fact of the public outcry that there must be anyone who is taken to court must be jailed. As a lawyer and someone who has been involved in advocacy on both sides, Nigeria and for the later part in England, I'm not going to court, even as a prosecutor, and believing that I must jail somebody.
Well, I think that we'll have to explore that line of argument a little further, especially in a country where we say that corruption is a problem, and people are trying to see how it is that those who are involved in it or those who are caught are successfully prosecuted. Well, we have to thank you very much, Mr. Eric Ifere, for coming on Sunrise Daily. He's a member, National Prosecution Coordinating Committee, and also a legal practitioner. And that's how we'll wrap it up here.